Hi, so this is my second video on here. Um, I'll be talking about mental health and my video. In this video, I'll be talking about everything I've been through, what I'm going through now, and what I want to go, like, direction-wise with everything. So, a little about me before I start. My name is Marcelo Munoz. I'm 22 years old. I currently live in Southern Florida, and I am a college student majoring in communications. My dream and goal ultimately is to share my passion about mental health with other people. And I travel a lot, so with people I meet around the world, locally, internationally, domestically, and just, yeah, a couple things before I start. This is purely a blog, so bear with me because I'm not used to doing this. This is my first time doing this, so yeah. And second thing is, if you like the context I post, and if you're willing to, please share and subscribe to the channel. I would really, really appreciate it. So let's begin. So, a little about me, or about this video mainly, but about me too, is here's my story. So I started getting depressed when I was like 15, 16. Mainly because I was overweight. I still kind of am, but I've been losing weight and everything. But anyway, I was at 18, I was diagnosed with depression. After, like discovering myself that I, in fact, was depressed. And it's something that I've struggled with all my life. Something I still struggle with. Something I will probably be struggling with for the rest of my life. So, and I take this seriously. I want to share my story with you guys. I want to share my experiences, help others, and yeah. So anyway, as I mentioned, I started kind of noticing that I was feeling depressed and low when I was around 16, 15. And it was until like I had just turned 18 that I started feeling depressed. That I started noticing, and like actually not noticing, I'm acknowledging it. I hadn't noticed it before, but I didn't acknowledge and recognize it until I turned 18. And few months after that, I got diagnosed with depression. So, and this is all during high school. And anyway, so I graduated high school and I went to college. It wasn't my dream college, but it was a college. I applied to many colleges, primarily in Florida and California, where I'm from, but a couple in like New Orleans and New Mexico. In Colorado. And University of New Orleans, UNO, was my dream school, but I got in, but I didn't end up going, which I realized much later devastated me. And anyway, so I graduated high school. A few months later, I ended up going to the Bay Area for school. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, so I chose the first thing, major-wise, and it was something I regretted later because I didn't like it. I hadn't taken any of the major courses for it. I was taking my general eds, but not gonna lie, I realized that it wasn't for me. So, anyway, so when I went up there, like I said, I after getting diagnosed with depression, I began to try to cope with it. And one of the things they say is to keep your mind busy. Keep yourself busy, you know? Like, the more things you do, the less you think about things, you know? About, like, depression and everything was. But, so that was my intention, you know? Do as much things as I could on campus. And I had met a few people on campus before school had started. So, like, I kind of knew, like, I know the area, so it's not like it was like a new place, new people, I knew people, like, I was familiar with the area, and so I started, like, socializing and meeting people, and more people, and when I just, like, moved up there officially, and so school started, I was taking my journal eds, and the first thing I did was, like, the first thing I thought was, what's one of the most social ways that I can meet people? And that was to join a fraternity. Long story short, like, I didn't get into the fraternity, which at the time killed me. And sent me down into a deeper depression. And I started drinking more, doing all this stuff to cope with things. And ultimately, and I was working. I, I was working a job. And at one point, I was working 2 jobs, and so I drove myself more into work than school, which is one of the things like I regret doing is not finding balance between school and work. And like one of the good things I got out of being up there was that I would always like go around the bay traveling, like checking out the area. Like I would go to downtown San Francisco at least once a month, maybe 2. I would go to like Berkeley once in a while, San Jose. And so that was one of my more positive coping mechanisms. And so as the school year was ending, like my GPA, I had failed the first quarter. Most of my classes I had failed. And so the second semester I did much better. And the second quarter I did much better. And by the third quarter, that was the quarter that determined if I would stay up there for the following school year or like end up moving back home to SoCal. And so I started like panicking because I was like, what if, which you should never really do. Like, you should never really you should think about, never mind. One of the things with me is I tend to overthink things. And so that's what got me. And long story short, a few weeks before the semester ended, and the quarter ended, sorry, I was walking back from work, like to my dorm, and I had a test the next day, which I had barely studied for, and it was kind of getting late. It was like 9 p.m. And I realized I was like, okay, I'm gonna get something to eat. And once I get back to my dorm, and then I'm gonna start studying for like a few hours, and then wake up early the next morning and study a little more, because my class was until like 11 a.m. And so that was my plan. So I started, as I was walking, I decided to run. And like, I ended up falling down and hitting my head on the curb. Hence the scar right here. And 2 of my friends saw the whole thing, and so they called the ambulance and like the cops and everything. And my friends ended up taking me to the hospital. And they were willing to wait for me. It was like, by the time we got to the hospital, it was like 10 p.m. And so they were willing to wait, but I told them like, hey, because it was like a school night and like they had class next day. I was like, okay, I'll make you guys a deal. I'll call you guys if I get out of here for midnight. If not, I'll just get like an Uber or something. I really appreciate you guys, for doing everything you guys did, but I don't want to make you guys wait all night for me. And long story short, like I ended up getting discharged around 2:30. I ended up getting 11 stitches, and I didn't get back until my dorm until around 3 a.m. And I hadn't studied. Like I was really out of it, and I was suffering from a head injury, so I was freaking out and getting anxiety because I was like, I'm not trying to. I don't want to show up to class with stitches. I don't want to show up and take a test I didn't study for and risk failing it while literally having a concussion. While literally, having just gone out of the ER after 4 or 5 hours having been there. So my professor ended up rescheduling the test for me, like a retake, after I told him the situation. And after the first week, I basically was like dealing with the consequences. I was like dealing with the pain. And after the second week, after the first week, I thought, okay, I had a week of free time to relax and to like recover. I need to like end strong. I need to make sure I pass all my classes because I was on the border. And long story short, I ended up being like barely below like the cutoff line to like continue like GPA wise, and I ended up getting like academically discharged, or whatever the word is, from the school. And I started blaming myself and the injury for everything that had gone down over the past month. And I started overthinking things. I was like, okay, why me? Why did this have to happen now? And that summer, I was like, okay, I gotta make sure that I get back into that school. So I enrolled in my local community college, started taking classes, started getting my GPA up. And at this point, I started smoking and drinking less because I was more focused on school. And for the first couple semesters, first few semesters, I was actually doing good, and then I started experimenting with more drugs, drinking more, and like going out more, partying more, and eventually, after like the third or fourth semester, my grades started declining. I was like smoking more, and I just ended up losing myself even more. And I kept blaming myself because of on the injury. I was like, okay, this wouldn't have happened if I was still up there. you know. This wouldn't have happened if I had gotten injured, you know. Like, why did this have to happen now? When I'm trying to get my life together, you know. And at this point it was like 2019. Like summer 2019, fall 2019. And over the summer I barely passed my classes. And fall semester was my last chance to go back up there without having to reapply. If that makes sense. What I mean by that is the school, I had been in contact with the school, and they agreed that I took certain classes, enough classes, like basically if I did the classes I failed, that when I was up there and I passed, that I would be able to go back up. And I only had a certain amount of time to do that. So, you know, fall 2019 came, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna progressively stop smoking weed, and I'm gonna start focusing more and more on school. And I was still doing like student activities in school, like, you know, student council, you know, like a few clubs. And I had been doing the clubs for a while, so, you know, I was meeting people, you know, I was socializing, I was doing all this, you know, and I let the best get out of me because I was like overconfident. Because like I was pretty sure, I was like determined to go back up, and I ended up failing that semester. And I didn't know what I was going to do because, you know, I thought I wanted to really go back up. And so I ended up like the next month, January 2020, I ended up trying to take my own life. And because I was really confused, I was still smoking weed a lot. I had just turned 21, so, you know, I was drinking a lot, way more than I was before. And yeah, so I was in Florida at this time when a guy tried to take my own life, and I was supposed to move out there, and I ended up moving back to California, and because I really wanted to go back, and I thought that was the answer, you know, I thought all my problems, you know, like, if I could go back, all my problems would be resolved, you know, and I get there, I get to California, and I started seeing the light at the end of the cave, you know. You know, I started going to therapy more, you know, I started opening up. I started, like, the same people that I had met in my local community college out there. A lot of them were still there. But like, I didn't want anyone knowing, besides my family, about what happened. And so I kept it a secret, and I started going more and more therapy, and in 2020, 2021, I had checked myself into rehab a couple times. Like my grades started improving, and like I took a couple semesters off. Um, and then I ended up moving. I meant into Florida, end of May of 2021. And once I got here, it was a fresh start, from like everything, I ended up going, like, enrolling back into community college, taking more classes, passing them with like A's. And it wasn't until like last month, this last month, that I realized, hey, I've come a long way from high school. I've come a long way from, like, being really super depressed. And, that depression has lowered, definitely. It's gone down. I still feel depressed sometimes, but, and like I mentioned, one of the main reasons that I was depressed was I was overweight and obese. So one of the first things I started after I came back to California about 2020, I started working out more. And when I moved to Florida, I started losing weight, and I started going to the gym. And I started losing a lot of weight, and realizing that I've been gaining muscle, like more muscle than anything. I've been losing the fat. I'm in better shape. I don't feel as foggy and as sluggish as I used to. I've been eating healthier. I've been following a routine. I don't drink anymore. I don't smoke anymore. And I started all the things I used to like growing up. I've been getting back into, music, watching movies, reading, art, traveling. Like all those things that I used to enjoy doing. I'm starting to enjoy more now. And one of the reasons why I decided to share my story is to put things in perspective for myself, to let people know that it's okay to feel depressed. It's okay to feel down. Because for the longest time, I never believed that anyone cared about me. But I realized over the past few months that all people care about me, and I started like paying attention to a lot of things, more things now. I'm more social now. I'm learning a lot of things about myself that I never thought were possible. Um, yeah, and you know, I just hope that you guys like my story as much as I like telling it. Um, and there will be more videos of me talking about mental health, you know, like suicide prevention, that kind of stuff, you know. So just I'll keep you guys updated, and please enjoy the videos. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.